Biddly, 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 bo. Yes, yes, yeah. Here we go. Ain't nobody down around here. Let's sort this hood out. Let's represent properly. You know what time it is. Get that badger in and on and over here. We had to move back to get his greatness in. There's been some talk about him becoming the mascot. I think he's always was and always will be the mascot. There's a couple of suggestions last night during my live to paint him. But as explained, there's absolutely no way on God's earth I am going to be painting my badger. No which way. I am very sorry, AO, but it's not happening. It's not possible. Quick ship vid, got a bit to just sort of talk about. I know it's obviously the open season now. We are still champions, and I will remain all the way through the summer as the champions. You know, we've completed the championship. Now it's up to the Premier League to complete. Sheffield United played last night. They beat Bristol City 3-0. The Bristol City manager's gone on a bit of a mad rant. It was funny, really, because I saw the fixtures, because obviously I've completely signed out the championship. I said last year, if we get out of the championship, I'll never watch another championship game. And I maintain now, that's me done with the championship. I no longer watch the championship. We will never be back in it, or certainly not for the next 5 or 6 years. We won't be back in it because we're off flying up, flying over, flying into Europe in the next 5 years. So I can't imagine that's why the parade was a once in a lifetime opportunity, because we will not find ourselves back in the championship. But yeah, so I was looking at the fixtures and I was like, what? Like, why is Sheffield playing? I was like, Bristol? Like, oh shit, yeah, that we would have been in them playoffs, wouldn't we? That would have been like one of the biggest games, well, the biggest game of the year for us. But, you know, Sheffield United, to be fair to them, got the job done 3-0. So you'd high expect them to be in the final against either Coventry or Sunderland. So will be interesting. I'll need to talk about Sam Allardyce because I feel like he's starting to bore me a little bit. He's as bad as Big Ange. You know, all this Big Ange against the woke haters all the time. Big Ange was on one again yesterday talking about Man United, and it honestly just does made it. It's all a distracting tactic because Tottenham is shit. I kept saying in my live feed last night, Big Ange, big lad, you really need to concentrate on just winning some games for Tottenham Hotspur. Stop fucking on why he's the most overrated manager in Europe. In the world, he's the most overrated manager. He seems to just be able to do no wrong. And my man Sam Allardyce is getting a little bit like a washed-up dinosaur now. He's getting a little bit boring. I let him go with a couple of weeks ago. He was saying, oh, you know, because I mentioned Melier didn't really like being dropped. Thought, well, yeah, you know, when you came in and you did drop him, it wasn't actually that horrendous when he got dropped by Sam Allardyce. I know he's poor this season, but last year, I mean, he wasn't that bad. Well, he got the keeper of the season, didn't he? He was in the team of the season, but that's long forgotten now, and he was not good enough this year. Of that, there's no doubt. We will talk a little bit about the keepers because I do want to. But, you know, I thought, well, what did you want him to do? Like accept that with open arms or something? And just go, oh, Sam, come here, you. I'm so glad you're in the door. Now he's saying, something's ringing in this room, and I don't know what it is. Now he's saying that Leeds United can't keep getting away with, you know, getting £4 million signings. At some point, we're going to have to spend big. But I don't really understand what his point is. It's that kind of comes as like a self-explanatory point, doesn't it? I don't think anybody suggests that we can keep going out and spending £4 million on every single player, and they all end up like Tanaka or Nonto or whatever. You know, I know that's not a 49ers purchase, Nonto, but you know, we've done quite well. The 49ers have got it really. It also suggests that, you know, 49ers are like risking it with the £4 million signings. They've been getting brilliant signings for 10 million. We've got Bogle and Tanaka in the door, you know. What more do you want? Do you want us to just spend? Because if we'd have spent 15, 20, 25 million on Tanaka, nobody would have battered an eyelid, would they? So I don't really understand. They've just been doing it correctly, Sam, my man. Big Allardyce, Big Sam, Big Ange. You know, the new Big Ange, the old Big Ange, you know. I just think, what you're on about, who cares? Do you know what I mean? And if you spend £30 million on a player, I presume they'll be worth £30 million. Because what I really don't want to do, truth be told, is spend £30 million on somebody like Rodrigo and end up in a similar situation that we were when we were in the Premier League. So we went and spent big then, didn't we? I'd rather spend get 10 players for £3 million and risk that 4 of them will be as good as Tanaka, you know, or 4 of them as good as Nonto or whatever, you know. I'd rather do it that way than get 2 £30 million players and they're both shit. It's all right saying we have to spend big, but I don't know. I want to reference his Beto as well, because it has been on Sky Sports and stuff, and apparently Richarlison's open to a move back to Everton, which might sneak Beto in round back door, but he's getting all sorts of stick from fan base. I think it's only on Twitter really largely, but people jumping the gun. The tacticos basically will never be happy unless they've brought the player up first. So if they mention Beto 2 months ago, they'd be like, yeah, get behind it, get him in. But if they didn't, then, they fiddle the figures a little bit, don't they? He's got 7 goals in 27 games. He's also been told off for being 27 years of age, which is like a very strange observation to me. He's literally entering the prime of his life. We have to view this year's signings as well as being exactly what we need, exactly when we need it. I don't want to fuck around, like I say, with another Rodrigo. I want to make absolutely sure that we don't have to wait a year and a half before we see a few results in a couple of players. I don't want to mess around. I'd rather, if Beto gets 7 goals in 27 games for us next year, then I'll take it. Do you know what I mean? Peru can chip in with 10, put Peru in front of a goal, and he will score. So I think he stays around. Apparently, there's been some interest in Joseph while we're talking about strikers. There's going to be a meltdown again, but Joseph will be moved on, in my opinion. If some half-decent offers come in, I think Betis are in for him. We can't really fuck about either, to be honest. Loaning him out, see if it all works and all that. It kind of tickles me in a sense because I get accused of being, blindly following the old guard. You just feel like, oh, God, you bastard. But the tacticos of Twitter and the goons online blindly follow people that have done nothing for the club. Joseph's been all right. He's scored a couple of goals this season, but, he's not contributed anywhere near as much as Rothwell, for instance, and nobody wants Rothwell to stay at the club. So I'd be like, what, you want Rothwell in every week? Like, no, I just think there's more of a case for Rothwell offering us something in the Premier League than there is Joseph. Yeah, they're playing different positions, you dickhead. It's oranges and lemons you're comparing. Comparing oranges and apples, man. Like, yeah, well, yeah. Joe Rothwell on that has come out and I think it was on his Instagram and put unforgettable season. What a group, what a set of supporters. Season 24-25 equals champions. And I think it's worth giving my man Joe Rothwell a little bit of credit. It was a huge part of our promotion side on it, particularly when it didn't look like he were going to be. It didn't look like he were going to be very much used at all. He ended up making 36 appearances for us. Some big moments, can actually deliver a ball. The 2 goals at Struick for the Sunderland game, I believe, or perhaps the Sheffield game. I get them 2 games mixed up because they were both last-minute jobbies, weren't they? Said we're going to have to do the keeper talks. There's some keeper talks with Ramsdale. There's a random one just popped up on my Twitter. Obviously, we will be bringing in a keeper, but I do find the keeper scenario very interesting. I spoke to Luke last night, and he thinks Darlow stays second and Meslier, Silent S gets moved on. I'm not sure Darlow wants to be the number 2 keeper. I'm not sure he fancies being playing second fiddle to no man. And I don't want to be concentrated on getting 2 goalkeepers in the door. Now, personally, I think Meslier Silent S has to be moved on, both for his own career and for our future. I don't think it's necessarily a good thing for him if we need the second keeper to play. Or do we stick with Darlow and then get another keeper in? I don't know. It depends the standard of the keeper that you bring in. But I personally don't think Darlow will want to play second fiddle. You might be able to lie to him again, but he will know, I think, when the level of competition comes in, whether he's coming in as the number 1 or the number 2. And what I don't want within the squad is unrest. But I think signing 2 keepers is terrifying. What are you saying on that? The keeper area is honestly the most interesting part. The most interesting position that we will have to fill this year. So I think 10, everybody's aware that we're getting a 10. Everybody's aware we'll be in the market for a striker, centre-back, left-back, even centre-mid. The outfield sort of takes care of itself and you can compete in them positions. Like if Peru thinks, I'm not the number 9, but I've got a chance of getting in the 10, for instance. But if Darlow thinks he's playing second fiddle, and Farker stuck by Meslier Silent S for a long time, didn't he? Much to everybody's dismay. So what is your thoughts on that? Darlow happy to be second fiddle, or Meslier ends up being second fiddle for a bit, or you get rid of both and get 2 in, or you go with Cairns as the second keeper, which I can't imagine. What you're saying? We're nearly at 5,000 subscribers, guys. I should say this at the start of the video, so I've been told, and then people are more likely to subscribe because the chances of people being here 10 minutes into the video is minimal. Take it easy, everybody. Peace.
Promises, you do you and I'll do boom.